Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 12th River Falls City Council meeting. First thing we'll do is stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Your roll call, please, Christy.
Bierstedt.
Here.
Downing.
Here.
Gagne. Here. Morissette. Here. Odine. Here. Page. Here. Watson.
Here. Next, we have approval of the minutes from the February 26th meeting.
I move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then approval of the bills with Mr. Page.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of the bills in the amount of $2,128,438.88, subject to the comptroller.
Second.
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we move on to public comments. If there's anybody in the audience that has anything they'd like to stand up and talk about, now would be the time. Yep, come on up. Thank you. There should be a paper up there you can sign in and.
I'm Chelsea Richter, and I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the rezoning project for the development that is planned for over here alongside our building. So I'd just like to say that I feel that it's in this town's best interest that this property remain available for public use. I feel open space and public use is more in alignment with the aforementioned goals of our city and the interests of its residents. I'm aware that we need more housing in our community. My home and many others a block up from this property are rezoned for multifamily use, and over time these neighborhoods will transition to offer more housing, and that's as it should be. I think this process could be expedited if we had some incentive programs or perhaps like a committee that was devoted to addressing the issues that are specific to low-income families that are in our neighborhood. My house is unique in that I live right across the street from our neighbor's place, which has really opened my eyes to the needs of the low-income families who are most affected by our housing crisis. A development of this type is not going to address those housing needs, and it's a riverside property. People that are in low-income situations or they're in crisis mode, and the housing opportunities that they're looking for address problems like their income restraints, and they have past credit restraints, things that are not going to be solved with a facility of this size. The application process alone and this is going to be a very nice building, but the application process alone is going to be like 6 pages long, and the first 10 sentences are going to be not applicable for the people who are most impacted by this housing problem. Furthermore, I think housing solutions like this one really create isolating situations for the elderly and isolating situations for people who do need low-income housing. Living next door to our neighbor's place, we've jump-started a lot of cars, and we have elderly people in this current neighborhood and low-income people in this current neighborhood who need help with things like mowing their lawn and digging them out when they're stuck on their way to a doctor's visit. I think that increasing multifamily use for the neighborhoods that we have is just going to be a much better solution than creating complexes that we know to be isolating and don't solve the problems for low-income housing. So this company that is seeking to develop this property has many lovely properties, and they all seem well managed. However, it's very large, it's not local. It owns other properties in this area, and this could allow this company to own enough properties where they can fix prices and rather they're not meeting the dynamic needs of the different members of our community. Furthermore, I don't think it's in the Kinney's best interest to be adjacent to such dense properties. We've already learned in our extensive river corridor planning meetings that hot surfaces in the immediate area surrounding waterways increase water temperature, and having even a small buffer increases river health tremendously. So these properties are really, really close to the Kinney, and they're an affront to the work our community has done in the extensive planning process that we've literally just humped over. In the past, this area was commercial, but it was a bustling hub for our community. And I suggest that we make it that again by shifting our focus from and offering it in the form of green space. People in our community have already proved that we will come out in droves to support this river. Friends of the Kinney has 3,000 people. If we could just extend this conversation and inform more people in the town, we could get a better idea of what our community views for this space. I received documentation about this project because I live 300 feet from it, and that was 2.5 weeks ago. We're talking about breaking ground in spring. That's very, very fast, and it's such a public location. I think the public deserves to have more time to comment. Thanks.
Thanks, Chelsea. Anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about? Nope. Okay, well, next move on to, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, come on up.
I am a Crystal City resident, lifelong. I know it's kind of late, as it's been alluded to. The city's already sold the property to an investor. And so I almost feel like I'm wasting my words. But when did the city become interested in selling property and acquiring properties? I don't think it's in the best interest of the citizens to sell this property that adjoins the Kinnickinnick for a development of this type. Anybody that goes down the alley on the west side of Main Street, I mean, it's kind of an eyesore. Adding a 4-story apartment building along the river is going to be an impact. This city has spent a lot of money looking at the Kinnickinnick River corridor and trying to improve it. We've had talks about removing the dam to improve the river and whatnot, and now we're going to add these big buildings along there, and I just really do not think that that's... The river is our biggest asset in the city, and putting an eyesore like that, even if it's a beautiful building, doesn't belong there. My parents had a problem neighbor, and my father was speaking to the other neighbor who suffered the most, and he said, I wish him well, just somewhere else. And I think that's how I feel about a development of this kind along the river, is that it has all of the great merits that it might have, but I think it belongs somewhere else.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to, next thing is we have a change of agent for We Market Co-op doing business as Whole Earth Cooperative River Falls. And I will take a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the change of agent for We Market.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask the agent to come to the podium. I'm not going to get your last name. Hessler?
Heusler, yeah.
Heusler. Thank you, Mr. Heusler.
It's weird.
Mr.
Weird
Heusler,
spelling.
I have 3 questions I ask every agent.
Yeah.
I asked your previous agent a couple weeks ago the same 3 questions. Do you currently possess a responsible bar server's license? Do you understand the role of an agent?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you are not, even if you're not present, there's an alcohol-related violation, you are responsible?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, any other questions or comments from anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we have a couple reports. The first one is from the Human Resources, and Jamie Isaac will give us a little presentation here.
All right, thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jamie Isaac, and I'm here today to give an update on the HR department here at the city. So I thought we'd start out with just introducing our team. Many of you already well aware of Karen Bergstrom, our HR director. I'm Jamie Isaac, the HR coordinator. I've been with the city for about 2.5 years. And then routing out our team is Rhonda Davison, our HR assistant, who splits her time between utilities and HR. She's been with the city for over 30 years. So one goal of our HR department has been to create a recruiting video to promote what a great place it is to work at the City of River Falls. This past year, we were able to team up with communications and make it happen, and it turned out great. So we would like to take a minute to show you our video now.
I came to the community and I saw the vibrant downtown and the Kinnickinnick River. Not many communities have a river that runs through it.
River Falls has a downtown, cute, quaint downtown, stores, bars, restaurants. There is a university right off of Main Street, so that's a nice thing.
It's a high energy place to work. People enjoy what they do. They enjoy being around each other. They enjoy working with the public, and we get a lot of good stuff done.
Oh my gosh, my job gives me such satisfaction. When people walk into this room and I can greet them by name, and they can greet me by name, I love that.
I think the employer values a good worker quite a bit.
They're all about the training, getting people into the position they want to be in.
River Falls is very competitive for pay standards. I mean, you can look at the pay of what we're getting, you know, starting off patrol officer, and it's pretty comparable to those over in the city.
Here at the city, we actually have what's called the Healthy Foundations Committee. And some employees just decided on their own, let's get an exercise group going. And they just kind of gathered up people and said, hey, every morning we're going to exercise, come on over and join us.
Everybody knows everybody. Public Works guys know the City Hall people, and the City Hall people know the ambulance people. My colleagues are fun to work with. We're doing a picnic today for the city for our families.
One of our best benefits is our PTO plan. We have an awesome, unique PTO policy that was actually just rolled out this past year. And basically, it's all employees get the same generous time off.
The people that I feel like would fit in best here are people that are flexible, people that are caring, people that want to put the customer and the city first and have that desire to make River Falls a better place.
I feel like my coworkers are like my brothers and sisters I never knew, basically. I think we all get along great. It's like a family here, is what it is.
River Falls wants someone that is a go-getter, someone that has a spark and a drive for their career, and they want someone that wants to give back to the community and be a part of this community and that's proud of this community.
All right, we hope you enjoyed the video. Moving on to recruitment. Recruitment and staffing is always a big part of our department, and I have some stats from 2018 to share with you. We received 685 applications for postings throughout the course of the year, conducted 115 interviews, of which we utilized both Skype and on-site interviews. We had 26 internal moves within our existing staff, many of which involved many EMS paid per call volunteers transitioning over to casual or part-time employees. And we also welcomed 59 new hires to the city. So with that many new hires to the city, we felt that onboarding was a critical component to the recruitment process. So as part of the onboarding effort, we developed the Passport to the City program. With the Passport program, new hires are invited to go on tours of different departments within the city to learn different aspects of what makes a city run. The program was well received and is now offered to all staff who are interested in participating. We feel it's a key component to welcoming new hires into our culture. In 2018, we had 18 employees participate in tours, and we had 11 different departments help conduct those tours. We felt that fun was had by all, as you can see from some of those pictures. As mentioned in the video, another big project for both HR and payroll was our conversion over to PTO, or paid time off. In evaluating current trends in the market with both public and private sector, many have moved away from traditional sick and vacation time and switched over to paid time off. Our sick and vacation time had commonly been used as a retirement savings account, resulting in large payouts at retirement. So this was a culture change for the city. But in making this change, employees have had more opportunity to enjoy a work-life balance, and the city's overall liability in large retirement payouts was drastically reduced. Another goal was to create a benefit that was equitable. All employees, regardless of level or time and position, receive the same time off. Everyone is valued here. We feel this competitive plan will help us retain and attract great talent. HR has made major improvements in technology over the last 2 years. All our employee files are now digital. So this means we can access information from an employee's personnel file right on our desktop with the use of Laserfiche. If a manager needs a copy of an employee's last performance review, we can email it to them in seconds. So files are now easier to find, view, and share information. Getting to this point was a long process. HR department has scanned over 34,000 pages. But as of now, all of our regular full and part-time personnel files are all completely scanned in. During phase 2, we'll be evaluating which files to scan next: casual staff, safety records, workers' comp, or other records that would make the most sense at this time. Looking ahead to 2019 projects, we will be having a classification and compensation study. This study was last done in 2012, and we have it in the plan to review every 5 to 10 years. So we will hire an external consultant to review and evaluate our current compensation plan, and in addition, review the positions and placement of those positions within the plan based on market and internal equity as well. In June, our police officers will also be converting over to paid time off, and we also plan to create a new hire mentorship program to further expand and improve on our new hire onboarding program. Safety is a top priority at the city, and our city's safety coordinator, along with the safety committee, have worked hard in making safety a top priority. As a result, our workers' compensation rating factor is very low, which results in saving the city money. That team also just rolled out an emergency procedures guidebook to all employees. This is a quick desktop reference guidebook that we feel was critical to the safety of our employees should an emergency occur. These booklets are all located in all of the different city buildings. Here's the one for this room right here, so if anyone wants to stop by and check it out, feel free. In addition, Chief Gordon Young is the emergency management coordinator for the city and leads the emergency management committee. He partners with other community members, and they're currently in the process of coordinating training for employees on emergency management awareness. So this highlights a few of our things the department has been working on. We work on many other functions throughout the year that I won't touch on everything tonight. So thank you for your time, and do you have any questions?
Questions? No, I think the only thing I was gonna say was I know we hire a bunch of kids in the summer for part-time help, but the 680 applications for 10 full-time jobs we had last year, maybe, I'm guessing couldn't have been more than 10, 15.
I think the numbers with the open positions, that would include we post our seasonal positions.
Okay.
So that would include those candidates as well.
680 applications for 20 jobs is,
yep. I
think that says a lot about people wanting to work here, so.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jamie.
Right.
Appreciate it. Okay, next, Cindy Danke from Park and Rec is going to give us a presentation on the Park and Rec board.
Let's see if I can find mine. Nope. Oops. There we go. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Cindy Danke, Recreation Manager. Here to talk a little bit about the Park and Recreation in 2019. Our booklet obviously is the highlight of many people's mail, and that will be coming out in the free Journal Express this Saturday or Sunday, depending on which day. I hope it doesn't snow again, because mine out in the country has not been coming until Monday, and that will not make a lot of people happy. In inclusion to that, we're going to put it online on Thursday, so people will be able to view it online. We also are trying to encourage people, because we've started a new software, so everybody needs to start up a whole new account, so they need to put together a whole new account. One of the things that is, has been something that people call and ask about is Hoffman Park camping. Last year, you guys increased or helped me increase the cost, and we put in the tent camping. It always amazes me to go out there and see how full it is, but how quiet it is out there. And even the one weekend, I think it was a Friday night, there were like 9 tenters there. You know, and I kind of had to find out, wow, how did you know that the tenting was here? Some of them found it online. Some of it were just driving by the bypass and saw it down there. Some were bikers that knew about it from other ways, and so they all came there. But to see those 9 tents out there, and I did have a video, but everybody on the video was just saying hi to me. So I didn't want to really show that one. Obviously, we have the dog park, and that once again amazes me on how many people are going out there and using it and absolutely love it. Even when it was very cold this winter, the parking lot was full. They were trying to get their dogs out and using it. There's a clear path there for people as they're going out into the field, and it's always nice to see how people really do enjoy it. Glen Park is going through a lot of revisions this year. Obviously, we're putting up a new pavilion, which we're really excited about, and I think the people will be really excited to see the fantastic facility that it's going to be. So a lot of things are not going on at Glen Park. So we're not going to have the swimming pool open because they'll be building the splash pad. We will still have soccer in the front during that time. The pickleball will still be open for people to use, and the open shelter is there for people to use. So that was a transition when people were calling up in January wanting to have the old Glen Park Lodge. We'd have to either move them to the open or move them out to Hoffman Park. Pickleball still continues to go on even in the wintertime. This is at Greenwood, so as a pickleball association, they go to Greenwood and put the lines down, and they have it every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday evenings, and it is full just about all the time. We're going to have to look for some place for them to be because with construction at the schools and our own, I don't think Greenwood Gym is going to be available till January, and they are already panicking. It's really not all about the game. You know, we have 420 participants in our baseball, t-ball, and it's about the parents who coach. It's about what the kids learn. It isn't just about the baseball game. We still have our fun camps. Here's Dinosaurs, our dynamite camp. And their swimming lessons, we had 731. And that is going to be a change also because obviously with that Glen Park isn't going to be open, we're using the high school pool, which is deeper and colder. So we're not going to be holding probably the parent-child classes because of how cold the water is, and then the pre-level 1 because of how deep the pool is in comparison for them feeling safe. We are encouraging the parents because we know it's important to get out, to go to surrounding pools, lakes, because a lot of that pre-level 1 is getting them used to the water, to enjoy the water, getting their head in the water, having fun in games. And so that's a lot what the swimming instructors do, but sometimes parents would prefer that somebody else would do that with their children. We still always have fun. I don't know why I know why you're 685 because who wouldn't want to come to and work for us? There's T-ball fun day at the end. You still have the fire department come over with their fire truck on that day. We couldn't do this without organizations that we have went together with. This is the CAB, Community Arts Base, and they put on this River Falls Community Theater. They went from 1 to 2, which we're back down to 1 again because of location, where the auditorium isn't going to be open at the high school, middle school, any place really. So they're just putting on 1 show in August a little bit later. But without them being the teachers of this and bringing the play, we wouldn't be able to put this on, but it's it's one of the first things that actually fill for us in the summertime. I couldn't do any of it without our park board. And here's our 2018-19 park board. And this is what they do because many times people will come with an idea or a suggestion of what we should do in the parks. And as a park board, they sit and listen to it. We have 23 with the dog park. And it really does take a village to put on some of these programs. You know, on the one side is what CORE, Kinney Off-Road Cyclists have done for us. And the other, the Rotary and the Garden Club met to help clean up Veterans Park and are going to continue to do that. So it really does take a village of everyone. Some ideas come from all ages, all groups. This is a Girl Scout troop, came to the park board, wanted to do a service project. They decided that they had seen in other parks where it's a checkerboard thing, and so they came and did their presenting to the park board. Park board approved it, and they put it up here, and it's actually a wonderful addition to Hoffman Park. We sometimes have groups like CVTC, the environmental science group, came in and they wanted to put up bat houses. And so they came, several times because we were just kind of concerned because they didn't really, the first time they came, had a plan. We told them what we would like to see. And they came back and they actually put up 4 bat houses, one down below Glen Park. There's one by the waste treatment plant. There's one on CVTC, and then there's one house, I think at or wherever the lady or the teacher that has it, she must be close to her property. I'm not quite sure where she is. But these bat houses to them were important. Obviously it was a project for them, but it houses over 200 bats, and so 4 of them. So, it's helping them along also. The St. Croix Valley Bird Club just did it with the utilities, where they wanted to put an osprey nest down by the waste treatment plant. As we looked at it, talked to them, we realized that it's a great addition, not really something that the park board could do, but it was something we took it to the utilities, and it made it happen in 5 months. Yes. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? I have Susan here, if you have something for her also.
You make anything for Cindy or Sue? Oh, thanks, Cindy.
You bet.
You guys doing a great job. Thanks to the board, too, for everything they do.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Next, move on to public hearings. I'm going to close the council hearing and open up a public hearing on ordinance number 2019-03. This is adopting the Wisconsin Municipal Record Schedule, and this is the second reading. So, does anybody in the audience have anything like to say about this? Okay. I'll close the public hearing and reopen up the council hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2019-03.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there again, I'll close the council hearing, open a public hearing on ordinance number 2019-04. This is amending section 10.12.030 of the official parking control map, which would create a no parking zone between 500 Crescent Street and 508 Crescent Street. There again, this is the second reading. Is there anybody on it that has anything like to say about this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and reopen up the council hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 2019-04.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, one more time, we'll close the council hearing and open up public hearing on ordinance 2019-05, amending section 8.40.050 of the municipal code related to weeds and noxious growth. There again, this is the second reading. And is there anybody in the audience that has anything like to say about this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and reopen the council hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve ordinance number 2019-05.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay, next, the consent agenda. The only thing on it is a resolution approving the 2019 fee schedule.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, ordinances and resolutions. Do we got to do these separately, or can we do them together? What, do you want to give a presentation separately?
I'd like to do the presentation separately and the action separately.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose.
Get it set up for you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. As I just mentioned, we'll be looking at 2 different resolutions tonight. The resolution for the depot and the resolution for the city station. And I'll go ahead and do the presentation for both and then request the action on that. I think it's important that I first provide a little history to the project. And it's not just this project, but it's the site itself, which is located right behind us here on Cedar, off of Cedar Street there. I'm just going to go back 30 years, because 30 years ago, in 1990, we actually hired a planning firm and design firm to come down to River Falls and really take a look at our downtown area. And one of the areas that was concerned was this property that we have here. And after the public meetings and discussion on it, they actually came up with a plan showing that it should be really turned into a residential development. And when we took a look at that, and when the notes I've read from that meeting, is that right now the property zone is industrial. And industrial is inappropriate use. And we wanted to get at something that people had the ability to walk to the facilities such as the library, to the market, to the church. This provided a walkable area for many people to come to. It is also something that increased just the idea of safety by bringing people in and having eyes on the area and in the river area. So then we jump about 15 years when we took a look at this building here, and we were starting the construction of this building. We looked at the site and thought about it, office use or some kind of commercial use. And we went through that process and really found out it was a difficult site to try to bring office use or commercial use just because of its area, and it just really didn't seem appropriate. So then we were given the challenge by administration to go ahead and take a look at that area. We had an apartment complex there that we've been investing money on and basically putting Band-Aids on it, having issues with it, trouble with it flooding, the leaking of the roof. The site before was a site that consisted of an old gas station and some other buildings. And we started slowly removing those buildings and cleaning the site up because there was a lot of issues on the site. Then we talked to quite a few different developers. We had them come in. We had different proposals. We really didn't find anyone that really had the vision to look at the overall site itself. We wanted to look not just at the one parcel of the site, but we wanted to look at it all. And just about that time, about 10 years, we had met with a company that took on a project, University Falls, and they came into town as their first project in the area, and they're driving through, and they looked at a site too. And that site was near the Lake George, and we had a mobile home park, and it was just falling apart. Yes, it was affordable housing, but it was just dilapidated. We were having issues, calls, and we had other homes that were just not together. They just wanted to buy a house and build a little fourplex. So we talked to them. They opened up their vision and looked at the full site itself, redeveloped it, put a trail system on it, and so forth. So when we were looking at the site, they said, let's just look at somebody that we know who's done projects with us in the past, who's worked with us, and we maybe will be able to look at this. So we told them we had a site here. They took a look at it, and they said, well, you know, this is a bigger project than we've really done before. But we can understand how you want to master plan the whole area. And so we sat down and we looked at this. This is right here, about 2.25 acres. And we said we wanted to be able to preserve the river. We wanted to look at our infrastructure. We had in our capital improvements to relocate the water and sewer that was under River Street that runs right through the property. We were having trouble. It's aged. It's been there for a long time. We had overhead lines along Clark Street that we wanted to remove. And so we tried to work out an agreement. And we came up with what you see tonight is this site over here. Now, we talked about this site almost 4 years ago. And 2 years ago, we brought this to you, and we had some discussion. And we had the discussion that we wanted the appropriate type of buildings, the type of development there. We wanted to create what we call the public-private interest on this site. So as we talked about it, we looked at putting 2 units. The first unit is a 50-unit parcel that will be located, they called the depot. Now, this is a WIDA project. WIDA has restrictions for affordability. It's for senior citizens. I love that because I'm a senior citizen now. It has that opportunity to bring for people 55 and other. I could just walk to work if I was there now, but I'm not going to be here. So after we looked at that, we really liked the idea of it. But we said, we have another building there. It is just dilapidated. We would love another structure. We went back and forth on that, and we talked about it. And we looked at a free market unit, allowing the general public to be able to come rental unit. As we find in our housing studies and our master plan, that we wanted to provide a variety of housing throughout the city of River Falls. We did have an issue 15, 20 years ago where we were just building the high-end houses, and we were forgetting the low income and the middle income. We started mixing that up. It wasn't so much that they have to be government-issued housing, but we brought in the duplexes, we brought in the fourplexes, we brought in the multifamily, we mixed through different developments. Developers weren't happy about that because now they're creating more mix than just a single family. So that worked out, and we said, here's an example of what we want. So they came back, looked at this project, and then after we looked at that site, this doesn't show it, that we actually went back and said, well, we just finished this plan, and it's a river corridor plan. And in this plan, we wanted to accomplish the idea, and I'm not sure how we can show this, but the idea of providing a corridor along the river. Can we just hit the overhead? And when we talked to them on that, they said, well, you're taking half our property because it's almost 20,000 acres, and that are 20,000 square feet. An acre is 43,560. He says, you know, if you really want us to accomplish this, we need to work with you and try to get an actual site on there. So we've always had this cul-de-sac at the end of the property. Yeah, that would be good. We'll just bring it down. So that's good. So what we did is they said, we want to maintain this corridor along the river. We created a beautiful path. We want to have a good buffer for the river. And in turn, we have a cul-de-sac here that can bring you the space that you can have some green area. We call it the front door to this project. Right now, it's a dirt area, but we threw another thing on them. We said, as part of the agreement, we want this to be a public-private use space. They agreed. They said, and then we want you to maintain it. We want you to place a variety of things, the pathways, the trees, the benches, and so forth. They said, that's our idea. We want to be able to be open to the community and provide this. And so we also said, all right, we have a road there. We have some people. We have some open space. We don't want the traffic going all the way through. We want it minimized to be over on Cedar Street. They agreed to that. And so they went ahead and worked on that, and they came up with this site plan that's in your packet now as part of the developer's agreement. Provides us a buffer, provides the opportunity to be able to have the two different buildings that we have on the site. Now, when we looked at the first site, and I'll go back to the depot. Well, let me go back to this one here, because, oh, sorry.
Buddy, can you try to stay up towards the mic? I think you're getting picked.
I like the rock.
I think you're in and out, in and out.
As the project approvals needed, as I said before, one of the things we wanted to go back, rezone this property. It'll need to come back to you. We're going to rezone it to a residential use, a planned unit development. We need to amend the future land use map to show that we have the river corridor there and the multifamily, maintain the vacation of the right-of-way, create the PUD, as I mentioned, the implementation, get the certified survey map and all this. But these really can't get going until we get this developer's agreement going. It's really starting the whole process to go. And this is the project we looked at. The other thing we talked about is that we emphasize that we don't want just a development that has parking outside and you come in. We don't want a cheap development. We want a development that complements our building, complements our community. They agreed to provide the underground parking, sufficient parking outside, and provide it in a style that for the senior citizens in that area. And at the same time, we took a look at the other building, and we said, we want this building to complement our buildings the same way. Again, we went through a variety of different buildings, and this is still going through a review process. This building just complements what the depot is on the site itself. Now, both these buildings average over from $8 to $10 million in the process of what they cost. There aren't a TID. We created that TID, I guess, this year, latter part of that last year, to TID 14, updated the TID. We've always had the eye of developing this site and improving it. But we wanted to improve it, that there's something that we would be proud of, something that would provide something back to the community, and also at the same time try to protect our edges to the river itself. So when we looked at the overall project, we came up with a general development agreement. And as I said, this is the first start of it. We need to take this back still to another public hearing on March 19th to the Planning Commission. And then it also has to go to the review boards, and then back here to the City Council again for its reading on the rezoning. and also its improvements of the general plan. They have to go through those details, and back again in April for the rezoning, for the final rezoning on it, and amending of future land use and the right-of-way vacation. So it's difficult when some people hear it, but it has been discussed. We've talked about it. We did reflect the ideas of the Kinnickinnick River corridor. We want to use this as a good example for future development. We want to show that next time a project comes in, that we want to preserve that corridor along the river, that we want to have a development that, especially that close and visible, that helps not just those that can afford the upper end type of homes, that can actually afford the affordability of those units. Like I said, a WIDA and state approved project. So we were able to work with the state and federal government to be able to get those types of fundings. And we also worked with somebody that we have a history with. And I think that's always important. They've only had one project in the city. They've looked at other projects. But we have a history of a lot of people doing many projects in our community. And we find that those that have done quality projects are usually the ones that we keep working with. Those that haven't aren't here anymore. And there's many good reasons, but we've done a lot of good projects, and this is one of the, I think, the bigger and better projects that we have been involved with for quite a long time. So with that, the developers here, staff's here, can stand for any questions. I'm not sure if they want to make comments, but as I mentioned earlier, we have the two resolutions that we would like the City Council to act on, and that's the first resolution on the depot and the second one on the city stations.
Okay. I'll get the resolution going first, and I'll ask for questions, buddy.
Okay.
So I'll take a motion on the resolution approving the depot development agreement.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve the depot development agreement.
Second.
Questions or comments now on that one?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. This question's for Julie Bergstrom. And under the developer's agreement, it says property acquisition not defined, then it has $800,000. What are they referring to when we look at that?
That was referring to some property acquisition that was outlined in the TID 14 plan. With TID districts, we're allowed to spend for projects within a half a mile of the project. So these are not defined properties that may be acquired, but are included in the project plan.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Hey, buddy, I have a question.
Yep.
What's the storm water runoff impact on a above-ground parking lot versus an underground parking lot?
I got my stormwater engineer here. He just happens to be in the audience.
Yeah.
So your question is the difference between underground, well, from a stormwater perspective, you know, going up is always better than going out. So a surface lot, if they did a surface lot, it wouldn't be under the building. It would be a footprint of impervious surface. You're basically getting it for free by putting it under the building as far as impervious surfaces go. So
you don't have all the extra water runoff and asphalts and oils going into the
right. When you look at, you know, in basic stormwater runoff, you're looking at impervious surface, stuff that the water won't go through. Certainly that garage floor in the basement is impervious. So is the first floor, so is the second floor, so is the roof over the top of it. As long as they're stacked on top of one another, the raindrop hits one surface, it's done. So again, if you have a roof here and a parking lot over there, you've got twice as much. If you put the parking underneath, it's almost as if it doesn't exist.
And what's the extra cost for is there a huge extra cost to put in underground parking versus above ground?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm not in that business, but it's certainly going to cost more to put in underground parking. You have to have, structure and fire suppression.
So that's definitely an undertaking that the developer and the property managers are taking on to kind of make the project more beautified and as well as reduce the water runoff. I mean, that could be a point made, right?
You could arrive at that conclusion, yes.
Okay. In your professional opinion, Reed, is there any risk to the river with a project this big next to it?
What I would say is we have a very forward-looking stormwater management ordinance that we've had on the books here since the early 2000s. The intent of that ordinance was to acknowledged that all this development certainly can have an adverse impact on the river. And we were very aggressive with that, with the intent of making it so that new development did not have an impact on the river. Furthermore, in this particular area, it's in what's called the, the downtown redevelopment area. There's a certain district. So we created that ordinance. Then we also created some river setbacks. And again, a lot of the focus at the time those were created was because it was the early 2000s. We were getting a number of big developments in here. And if you remember Hans Hagen out on the Kinney River. And there was a lot of worry that you'd have these housing developments snug right up to the river as close as they could. And so we created a setback ordinance, pretty aggressive setback ordinance. After that was created, I think there was a realization, staff and committees, council, plan commission, et cetera, that setback ordinance perhaps constrained things in the immediate downtown area. We have a downtown area that we want to embrace the river, and we have many old buildings that we maybe want some reinvestment in. A good example would be the grocery store over here, Family Fresh. They're within that wide setback area that we would impose on something like a new Hans Hagen development or down Spring Creek Estates. But it prevented a Family Fresh from perhaps enhancing their existing property. And so we created a special ordinance within the downtown area that allowed lots to redevelop, reinvest in their property within that expanded shoreland area, but they actually have to improve their stormwater even more than the runoff characteristics before the redevelopment. So on this site, like everywhere else in town, they will analyze the runoff characteristics to the river before development, and then their post-development needs to be no worse than that for various key events. And then we make them improve it by 50% more than that for the area within what would have been a wider setback area. So you can get a little better. So
when you say we make them go 50% better, and that's the city imposing that?
That is a city ordinance, and we've talked it over with them, make sure they have, because not all cities have some of the things that we have here.
That's my point exactly.
And we've been making sure, we've been doing our best. The engineers over here, I know Crystal's had some discussions, and we don't want surprises. They don't want surprises. We've gone over this in pretty good detail. So we don't have all the details yet, and they're working on the design, but they will have to meet those requirements that are in our codes and ordinances. So compared to what's out there now, or historically, I should say, because we do reflect the fact that this used to be a big grain mill over there, and we give them some credit for those previous impervious surfaces. Compared to the historic runoff characteristics there, it will improve that. It will improve it.
But I guess I just have a couple more comments. Thanks, Chelsea and Chris, for coming forward. I mean, it's great to have the community base here reflecting what their concerns are, and I mean, we welcome that anytime. A couple of things that I wanted to address directly is a while back we were looking at 700 South Main Street as a possible project. We had a developer come through and wanted to do a project there, and we had a couple local gentlemen that are builders and investors in the community come in and make us think about why aren't we using them. It's not that we're not trying to go local and have these folks come forward, but I don't think that we've necessarily had any serious interest from them that have risen to the level of these properties, or even brought a development plan forward. I think that's the biggest hurdle that we get into in a property like 700 South Main. If you cross over the South Fork Bridge, it's the McEwen block with the White House on it. That being said, to address another concern that you had on low income preferred or income based, I believe that's before WIDA right now, if I'm not mistaken, trying to get grants for that project to go forward, and it will be 100% income based, and there is some opportunity in there for veterans to have housing in there regardless of income. So I think our housing study that has been addressed is kind of working itself out. So Just a couple points I wanted to throw out there for the community to understand that the city is trying to work with developers that have a history with the city, have brought forward developable plans that we can actually work with, and then also address our housing study for mixed income. So.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple comments, and some of them have already been touched on, but I guess I'd just like to summarize some of my thoughts. We heard Buddy's history of the property. Originally this was going to be an office building site, and because of the economics of the time in 2007, it didn't work. We could have an office building there today. It would have been there, and this parcel has been for development for a number of years. It's again, I heard at the Plan Commission meeting concerns about the property, and I heard tonight the two people who spoke, and I understand that. But this has been a site that has been slated for development for many years. I've also had the chamber director in my ear about her using it for festival grounds. I would have loved that, but there's some economics here that just have to come into consideration as we look at the taxpayers of River Falls. The underground parking has been covered. I think that eliminates surface parking. There's been talk about the 75-foot setback versus the 50-foot requirement. The other thing that I think I want to point out here too is that the TID district is going to supply some well-needed funds to some parts of the corridor. I don't know if I can get at them right away here, but there's some items here that will help with, there it is, the trestle bridge, which will go over the old bridge abutments is part of what can be funded. Gateway River access is considered in here. So this is a nice balance in my mind between economic concerns and environmental concerns. I think this is a nice balance that does it. Not to mention, as Mr. Gagne pointed out, this also, our housing study that we did and took a lot of time in calls for categories of housing in all categories. This addresses one, the senior assisted living, or not the assisted living, I'm sorry, the senior low-income housing that we need filled. So this project is a good fit. Finally, I guess I'd like to just say that, in working with the developers from a council standpoint through staff, I feel, I can't speak for the rest of my council members, but I feel that they're quality developers. I think they're committed to the area. Yeah, they're from the La Crosse area, but they've got projects in River Falls. They've got more slated to happen here in town. They've got projects slated for Hudson, and they're working on Hudson projects. They're committed to the area, and I think, from a development standpoint, if we're going to pick people we want to do business with, I think the Gerards are one of the people we want to do business with. So maybe that's too much of a blatant plug for the Gerards, but that's my point of view. So with that said, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I have just a few comments. One of the results I see of having a development like this on this site is that we have a lot more people. We have a lot more people walking in downtown. We've got a lot more age groups and economic groups living close to downtown, and I see that as part of continuing to make River Falls a walkable and bikeable city, and keeping downtown as vibrant as possible. So that's one reason why I'm in favor of it.
We're all going to get a chance. I just want to acknowledge Ms. Richter and the gentleman who came after, and let them know that I'm one of the folks that has kind of been not too excited about this project in various meetings along the way. I do like the open space, and I do agree that that is a component of the Kinney Corridor plan. So I've been thinking a lot about this project over the last 3 or 4 months and before. A couple of things that have kind of swung me here as I've had to get closer and closer to making a decision. One is the walkable community aspect of it. and bringing a lot, or a large-ish, or, you know, hopefully maybe just a number of people living in the downtown area, senior citizens, and I like the mix of senior citizen housing and regular rate housing as well. I think it's good for our downtown businesses. I represent this area, and I know that for me at least, the viability of Main Street has been just an issue that has not been addressed at all in any of the tax increment districts that we've been putting forward over the last decade, and that includes, you know, most of them on the north end of town. And so the money that a tax increment district can generate for the surrounding area is a really important piece of the puzzle for me. And having been involved in the corridor planning committee, or not on the committee, but in the process, and listening to a lot of my neighbors here in this district, you know, we want to get moving on the corridor plan, and this particular project is going to fund potentially $2 million worth of Kinney Corridor Plan projects, and I think that's something that weighs pretty heavily on my scale right now. So I'm going to support it. You know, like I said, it's a compromise, I think, for me, but I think overall it's a worthwhile compromise to make.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a few thoughts since we're all chiming in here. I greatly appreciate your comments here today from the community. I really feel strongly about the Kinney Corridor Plan that we have passed recently, which calls for redevelopment of this entire river corridor right through the middle of town. And with the removal of the lower dam shortly, we will have an increase in about 12 acres of additional open green space right here available within walking distance in the heart of our community. So open green space is definitely an important part of this corridor planning process and implementation that will be addressed. It's maybe just a switcheroo of open green space here versus open green space there. One great opportunity I see with this development is the creation of these additional 74 units that will see many residents here in the city of River Falls that are looking to sell their homes and move from their homes into more of a retirement type setting of being able to walk downtown, and it'll open up their homes for either redevelopment, gentrification, or just improvement if people want to move into those more affordable homes right here in town. So I look at this project and I see the opportunity for transition of people from their homes into these dwellings to open up other homes for sale, and it just will shift people. So I see it as a great opportunity for our community, and hopefully we'll have many more, but thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a comment.
Yep.
I have voted against the 700 South Main Street project because I believed only 12 of those units were affordable. I think in this example, I'd say about half of them are. And I can tell you, at a city level, it's hard to find developers who want to work with the city. The Girards do want to work with the city. They've shown that in their plan that they're more willing to work with us than other developers. They have a history of actually following through with what they say too. So I'm in favor of this particular project because this actually does qualify as affordable housing from a developer standpoint. I think the state's going to have to play a higher, stronger role in the future to help with affordable housing projects, though. And I think everyone can agree that there certainly is a giant need in this city for that. And I thank everyone who made comments today. So,
am I the only one left?
Yep.
You're it.
Well,
better come up with something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm deeply involved with the River Falls Housing Authority, and you know, the affordability piece on one hand seems like competition to us, but the reality is we have a very significant waiting list.
Yeah.
Years for some people. So any way we can help address that, the Housing Authority is very pleased with, because we feel bad for the people that can't get in.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to say something, but everything's been covered, so I'll just, everybody in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next resolution is approving the city station developers agreement.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the resolution approving city station development agreement.
Second.
There again, questions or comments?
Sure, I'll repeat our same
Sure,
comments.
everybody, yeah.
I got my notes here. I can
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to administrator's report. And Scott's got stuff for us. If anybody's got any questions for Scott?
Mayor and council are thinking of any questions you might have. River Falls St. Patrick's Day celebration, 17th from 1 to 7 in downtown River Falls. There'll be a number of activities, and information can be found on the River Falls Chamber website. Early voting for the spring election is already going to be upon us. March 18th to the 29th, City Clerk's office will have early voting from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. here at City Hall. I do want to take a moment to appreciate Joe Killian, who retired from the city on March 5th after 31 years of service to the city. In classic public works employee style, he indicated no interest in a grand send-off. So I believe we gave him a nice gift card and well wishes, and I'm sure there was a few funny cards given to him on that last day, but appreciate Joe's work for the city for 31 years. I also had the opportunity to introduce to the council, prior to the council meeting, Sarah Carlson, who started yesterday as the city's finance director and controller. And I won't make her come up for the camera, but I'm sure you'll be seeing her on a YouTube video soon. I think Kevin's got lots of plans for
There she is.
City U, but I appreciate the opportunity to add another fine person to the city's employ, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Anybody got anything for Scott?
I'd say go slow in the next few days through puddles, because they might be more than a puddle.
Yeah. Mr. Gerard wanted to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip over you. You wanted to come up and say something?
Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council of River Falls, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, before I begin, I wanted to mimic HR's little response here. Every time that I've been at the city, I've been treated very courteous, with your staff being very energetic. So it's nice to see that you're really working on that, and it really shows in your staff, because they've always been helpful and gone out of their way. So I just want to say thank you for that. But I wrote down some things on some of the public comment that I'd be happy to comment on when we come back to address and give you a full architectural presentation. But I just wanted to remind the city of a few things. The city of River Falls does have a comp plan. The comp plan does call for higher density housing. It also calls for affordable housing or workforce housing development. Higher density is where developers need to help fund some of the things that you're already seeing tonight. A parking garage, those are more expensive items rather than just surface lots. So it's important to let you know that. We've done a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental study already on this site. We've worked with staff countless of months already trying to negotiate this development agreement. So we really appreciate your confidence in us, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr.
Next.
Mayor.
Yeah.
I should have added this at public comment. I do want to put it officially out there. As a private resident, I sent out some invites to community members for the next door. If anybody knows social media, like Facebook, MySpace, all the notorious ones that we've seen out there. Nextdoor is another social media app. I sent it as a private resident. I've gotten some city emails from folks because I am on city council. It is a legitimate solicitation based on some of the emails that have been sent out. It is a legitimate app that is based, I think their company's based out of California, just like Facebook or any of the other big ones. And they do advertise to you just like any of them because they got to pay for their platform somehow. So I'm just addressing some of the questions that community members had. The benefit I believe in this app as a private resident, not necessarily a city council member, is it brings community together. It can bring your neighborhood together, and I know a lot of city staff are on it, a lot of community members were on it, and it really does keep it local. You can't communicate with folks that are outside of the community base, and they can't communicate with you. Like if you go on some of the other platforms, you can do like things for River Falls or these, and other people can join them. That's not the case with this app. That's why I had confidence in it, send it out to the public members of our community, and there it is. Thanks.
Okay, I got one appointment I'd like the council to look at. I'd like to appoint John Longsdorf to the Police and Fire Commission through April of 2020.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion, we approve your appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we recess into closed session per Wisconsin state statute for the following purposes. 19.85, 1C and E, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility, to wit, the city administrator, and deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. To wit, this would be the East Cascade Avenue property.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we recess into closed session.
Second.
I need Christie, a roll call, please.
Gagne.
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Bierstedt. Morissette.
Yes.
Downing.
Yes.
Odine.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
You want to do